from my time back at NRC working with individuals, who had to take 2 buses, 3 buses a day to get to work and back. And you compound that over a week, you're spending $30, $40 to get back and forth to work, and that's eating out of your paycheck. And to your point, for those on the margin, you multiply that by 3, 4 weeks a month. That's a lot of money, right? And so I think this opportunity with the free fare has sort of given people a little bit of breathing room, and particularly those in recovery, it opens up the city, right? As you're going through your recovery, you might have to get to your group meeting, your recovery. You might have to get to your job, and the inability to do that can have a direct impact on your well-being, and it can be a trigger for your own personal recovery.
You're listening to America's Healthiest City on Mike King Biz Radio Network on ESPN Richmond 106.1 and Choice 105.3.
Welcome to America's Healthiest City on ESPN Richmond 106.1, part of the Mike King Biz Media Network. You can catch us each week here at 6 a.m. on the network or on espnrichmond.com. Please also visit YouTube and find our channel there at America's Healthiest City, as well as Instagram and LinkedIn. If you're new to the program, please also go to americashealthiestcity.com to check out our ideas board and see what it takes to become an ambassador to join our 10-year community partnership to make RVA the healthiest region in America by 2033. Today we have Victor Mckenzie, the Executive Director of SAARA, the Substance Abuse and Recovery. Nope, I'm going to get that one wrong. We're going to try that again. Substance
Abuse and Addiction Recovery Alliance.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I knew that I was going to get that wrong. So in any event...
you got it right the first time.
I got it right the first time.
That's what's going to happen.
So let's talk about this. So thanks for coming on the show with us. I love to talk to folks who are making things happen in the community, because we want to inspire other people to believe that things are changing and that they can play a role. So appreciate you being on the show with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Like I said, I've been looking forward to this all week.
Yeah. Well, I want to just acknowledge that we've recorded this once and it wasn't recording, and and so we're here kind of reeling off of that moment, and things don't always go as planned. But I really am grateful for you to sit again for the interview, and I want to dive right in and just talk about Richmond. You are not a native to Richmond exactly, but you've been here for some time, and it's home now. So tell us a little bit about what brought you to the community, where you're from.
Richmond is like an adoptive hometown. Originally from New York City, Queens for Rockaway, last stop on the A train, I tell folks, and moved down to Richmond in about 2008 or so. Parents just moved down during high school. Originally moved out to Chesterfield, and that was a big transition. All of a sudden, I'm like, man, where are the sidewalks at? It was a completely new experience for me, being a city kid, but adjusted. I went to Meadowbrook out there in Chesterfield, and went to Old Dominion down in Norfolk. Came back to Richmond, and really found my way. And I think 7 out of the last 9 years, this is where I've been.
So you came into SAARA in 2020, but you were involved in the community prior to that. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing in Fulton, and I know that you worked for Capital One for some time as well. So kind of lead us up to joining the organization that you're in now.
Absolutely, yeah. So growing up in a really tough environment, I'll be honest. I wanted to make as much money as possible, and I had joined Capital One a little bit after leaving Old Dominion, and it was a great experience, right? But I felt something was missing, a little bit of a passion point. And so there was this job posting for a part-time financial coach down at this little nonprofit. I figured, hey, it'll be my way to give back. And I went out for a job interview there, thinking it's just going to be part-time, extra cash, give back. And it reminded me a lot of the Boys and Girls Club, which really shaped who I am today, and really established a seed of public service and giving back. And I got in there, and I was like, oh man, I have to be a part of this. And eventually I started there part-time. A full-time role came open as a program director. Then I became the interim ED. And then, during 2020, during COVID, things, shook for the entire world. And NRC was no different. But I found the role here at SAARA, which was a great opportunity, and I've been there since.
So I understand that prior to your role there, the Greater Community Foundation for Greater Richmond named you as an emerging leader in nonprofits. Thanks to your community work, I suspect. Tell us a little bit about what led to that, and what does it mean to serve the community to you?
Yeah. So for me, I'll kind of start with the back end of it. Public service and community service is something that's been embedded in me since I was young. Like I said, I grew up in a pretty tough environment, and it was organizations like the Boys and Girls Club that provided a outlet and a safe space for me, a place of mentorship and love, and pushing me in all the right ways. And so that's something that's just been embedded in me, right? From my time up in New York to when we moved down here to Virginia, part of the Southwood Boys and Girls Club over in Southside Richmond. And my club mentor there, helped me get my first volunteer experience. Boys and Girls Club was my first job. My club director, who is my mentor and someone close to me till this day, took me down to go visit college, helped me open my first bank account. So for me, that community service and work to others was so important in my life that I wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted to make sure that I was involved in giving back and using my talents. And with the Emerging Leaders Program, I think the Richmond Area Community Foundation does a really good job of pouring into talent as they progress and become leaders in the region. And so I think that was 2019. I had an excellent opportunity, was recommended for it, and went through a year of just really internal transformation, right? Developing a leadership style, understanding the way the regional nonprofits work, and how we all, we want to serve together, and how do we build partnerships, how do we lean on each other and push each other to be the best region we can be.
Well, it's a deserving recognition, and I know that others share that view. You've been appointed by the mayor to city commissions, I guess, and by the governor to statewide commissions. You also served on the YP board at the Better Housing Coalition.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you understand. One thing that we help folks to understand is that individual health is not just the only thing we need to solve. We've got to solve community health.
Yeah.
And we need to look across the community. How did housing impact your thinking on what the work you do today?
Sure. I think shout out to the Better Housing Coalition YP board. It was my first opportunity to sit on a board and see how one functions. And it was a great group of folks who are really dedicated from all industries. Housing is and will always be, I think, the foundation of, if anything. If you don't have safe housing, consistent housing, you really can't work on anything else, right? It all starts there. And I think that shows that as we talk about community health, as we talk about all the other work that we do, it's all interconnected. And you need to ensure that we are solving what I call those 3 a.m. questions, right? Where am I getting my next food from? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to keep a roof over my head? And until you can solve those questions, nothing else really matters.
You're listening to America's Healthiest City on ESPN Richmond 106.1 FM, part of the Mike King Biz Media Network. We're here each week at 6 a.m. and today we have Victor Mckenzie, the Executive Director of SAARA. We're talking about substance abuse and addiction recovery and the good work that you're doing. So, tell us a little bit about SAARA. I know you have a few different buckets of service that you provide and advocacy and other things. So give us a background and tell us what you're working on now.
Sure. I'll give my spiel, right? SAARA is the Substance Abuse and Addiction Recovery Alliance. We advocate, educate, and support individuals and communities impacted by substance use disorder. And we do that through those 3 buckets, right? Our advocacy work tends to be at the state level within the General Assembly, really advocating for the right resources and services that community needs to survive, to strive, to thrive as it relates to substance use disorder. And so I'm really proud of some of the work that we've done, like helping to establish the first recovery high school here in Chesterfield. That way, students who are experiencing substance use disorder can continue their academics in an environment that gives them all the resources they need. We've advocated for increased Medicaid reimbursement rate for peers, individuals in recovery who want to work and give back. And so, countless other things. I'm really proud of the work that we do at that level. In our education bucket, we focus on really trying to limit the stigma of addiction through community workshops and classes. We help strengthen the workforce by training peer recovery specialists, those in recovery, and a host of other just sort of community focused education. And then and our support, we run a few programs in the Richmond footprint where one is a warm line, right? Runs 8 a.m. to 12 midnight, 7 days a week. You can call in, a family member can call in to get the resources that are needed to address recovery and addiction. And on the other end of that phone is going to be a peer, someone who's been there, who's done that, who isn't going to judge, who's going to know exactly the right resource that's needed and point you there. We also work with the Richmond Behavioral Health docket within the court system. And we staff 2 peers on that docket, and they work as a part of a care team, right? That's with the judge, the lawyer, the clinicians, and they're really advocating for that individual's person's best course of I think, a successful time on that docket.
Wonderful. So talk about the advocacy side a little bit more. So
Sure.
you ran for office. You got a taste for the governmental side of things, and you've got folks up advocating right now for some bills that are on the floor in the House and the Senate. So let's talk a little bit about feel free to share anything about your experience from running for delegates. But at the same time, I understand that there's a bill out now that is pushing to make more talent available in the peer space. So talk about that specific bill just so that folks have a sense of the type of advocacy work that you do and how what the outcomes of that could be.
Yeah. So, my time with SAARA got a chance to really see how legislation is passed, how policy has an impact on our everyday lives. And I knew how important it was that we have individuals who truly cared, who listened, and who were, I think, based in community as a part of our legislate. And that's a big reason why I ran. And, a lot of lessons, a lot of relationships built, and I'll continue to do all I can to improve our communities. And specifically about some of the work that we're doing right now in addressing barrier crime reform. We know Virginia across the Commonwealth faces a struggling behavioral health workforce. And the best way to tackle this is, one, ensuring that individuals who are working are paid a livable wage. And 2 is removing barriers to employment. And with rising opioid overdose rates, we have a unique set of skilled workers sitting on the bench. Those folks who are in recovery, who've been there, who've done that, who found that road and that path forward, and who want to help others. And we have them sitting on the bench, right? Just due to antiquated laws on the book. And our goal, and we have bipartisan support from Senator Pillion, Delegate Sia Price, Delegate Lamont Bagby, and others, trying to really address this and find a compromise that can get to the governor's desk and hopefully be signed.
Great. Now, on the resources side, I want to talk about that because somebody out there might be listening and be struggling and say, I don't personally have the kind of funds that are needed to seek out recovery. Can you tell folks who maybe know somebody else who can't necessarily help but needs help? What sort of resources are out there? Are there financial resources available for
there
folks?
Are.
What can people expect when they call?
So, if you're in the Richmond area, our community service board is Richmond Behavioral Health. That's a great resource. You can go onto the SAARA website, www.saara.org, SAARA.org, and go to the resource page, and you can find everything from links to financial assistance, links to treatment, to recovery residences, so the whole gamut.
Wonderful. So I want to turn our attention to the Richmond community and kind of talk big picture here. This is America's Healthiest City on ESPN Richmond 106.1. You can catch us each week at 6 a.m. here on the network. Also, ESPNRichmond.com. Today we have Victor Mckenzie from SAARA, and we're talking about some substance abuse, addiction, and recovery. And we always probe folks who come in here because you're a deep thinker. I know that you were in leadership Metro Richmond, and
class of 22 and 2, best ever.
So that there's a lot of preparation that has taken place in your life over many decades, but certainly in the region for the last 7. Tell us, for our own ideas board, maybe give us an idea or two that you might inject that folks can take, maybe big or small, that anybody could act on in order to see our community find a healthier future.
Yeah. That's a great question. For me, of late, it has been focusing on how our neighborhoods and communities are built or planned around that intersection between planning, which isn't always the thing most folks know about, and public health, right? So I grew up in New York City, where everything I need were within a few blocks, and I think about that in some of our communities where we're seeing individuals have to take 2 to 3 buses to get to a doctor's office. And you think about how likely are you to go to that doctor's office if you have to take 3 buses to get there to go for your your annual exam or physical. You're not. If you are in an environment that is a food desert, there's no access to healthy quality food, but you have a Family Dollar that sells stuff out the frozen section. You're more likely to go there. So I think a focus on the way our communities are built, particularly our neighborhoods, is something that we really need to focus on going forward. I truly believe that built environment is for the human experience, and of course, public health is going to be a part of that, right?
Yeah. Well, I've often thought about folks who are on the margins who go out needing services and think about the need to maybe visit multiple places across the city to be able to deal with what it is that they need to deal with. And I've thought, it would be nice if you could kind of cluster those things into centers that make for efficiency. But let's talk a little bit about the transportation piece, because I imagine that if somebody's in recovery, there's likely a need to transport themselves to those services or to group meetings and other supports. So talk a little bit about the free fares and the expansion of that. I mean, are you guys seeing the opportunity to serve more people as a result of this expansion? What other things can we expect to see from that growth?
Yeah, no, from my time back at NRC working with individuals, who had to take 2 buses, 3 buses a day to get to work and back. And you compound that over a week, you're spending $30, $40 to get back and forth to work, and that's eating out of your paycheck. And to your point, for those on the margin, you multiply that by 3, 4 weeks a month. That's a lot of money, right? And so I think this opportunity with the free fare has sort of given people a little bit of breathing room, and particularly those in recovery, it opens up the city, right? As you're going through your recovery, you might have to get to your group meeting, your recovery. You might have to get to your job, and the inability to do that can have a direct impact on your well-being, and it can be a trigger for your own personal recovery.
And I also imagine in a region the size of ours, anytime you add on barriers like convictions or other things, the number of opportunities shrinks, and your need to travel a wider distance may increase in order to make the kind of money that you need to support your family. What other ideas might you think about injecting into our board, or folks would you recommend that we talk to extract some ideas?
Sure. I always rally for increased regional partnerships, which we are seeing of late. Speaking of like the expanded routes in Chesterfield and what we're seeing in Henrico. And that makes the difference, right? Our challenges nor our opportunities end at our borders. And so the greater partnership that we can have, I think the greater impact we have with the people who live in this region.
Well, I want to give a shout out to Chesterfield County, because when America's Healthiest City started, it was a gift to the city of Richmond. But everybody we spoke to said that there is an appetite for regional cooperation. Whereas, in LMR, you kind of learn that wasn't always the case.
Right.
And so we expanded it regionally, and actually Chesterfield County is our first municipal ambassador through CFIT Chesterfield. So
Okay.
we're excited to have them on board, and we're looking for others, folks in Henrico County, City of Richmond, Hanover County. We want everybody to join because it's not just Chesterfield, it's just the City of Richmond. So.
Yep.
Anything else? What are you looking for? What you guys obviously need money to support what you're doing.
Yeah.
You need volunteers. What do you need right now? What can we ask the community to support you with?
Well, we're always looking for individuals who are committed to a community, who would like to share their time, talents, and treasure. We do have a golf tournament coming up in June, so be on the lookout for that. Please sign up for our newsletter at SAARA.org. And just stay in touch. And we're always, like I said, we're always looking for committed individuals to help out in any way that they can.
And if anybody's trying to find you out in the community, where can they find you?
Sure. For me, if you're on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I guess, right? It's at Vic Mckenzie Jr. Or you can go to victormckenzie.com.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you coming in and sharing more about SAARA and just your years of leadership in the community. We need more folks like you to be out there out front.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. This was America's Healthiest City on ESPN Richmond 106.1. You can catch us each week here on the network. Also visit americashealthiestcity.com to see our ideas board, see what it takes to become an ambassador. We are looking for businesses, nonprofits, academic institutions, and as you heard, government agencies that want to move the needle to be the healthiest community in RVA in America by 2033. All the information you can find is there, and we hope you'll submit your ideas to the ideas board as well. We'll catch you next time.